Hey everyone, I'm back with another video. I know it's been a while since I made a last one. Probably a repeating pattern in my channel, but hey, I'm busy in life, so what can you do? But today we're going to be responding to Jim Sterling. Oh boy, this is going to be great. Now, I'm not a huge fan of this channel. It's really annoying. All he does is whine about every single thing in the gaming industry. He doesn't even talk about video games. He mostly just talks about his political views and his videos, which is fine if you weren't pretending to be talking about games, but this video is probably the worst I've ever seen ever on YouTube, period. Like, I can't think of any other video I've seen that's worse than this. And mind you, I've watched Synthetic Man videos, Under the Mayo videos, so many bad videos, but this one definitely takes the cake. So without further ado, let's get into this. You know, I used to watch Jim Sterling videos, and I never really enjoyed them that much, but this intro always bothered me. I don't know why. Maybe it's just subjective, but also the title Legacy of Hate, because he's going to be talking about Hogwarts Legacy, by the way, and you'll know why in a little bit, but his reasoning is not very good. He makes very terrible arguments, so yeah.
Nah, I don't care. It's stupid. Harry Potter is stupid.
Okay, at least that's one thing we can agree on. I'm not a huge fan of Harry Potter. Just didn't seem that interesting to me, but that's just me. I mean, I guess I can understand why people like it, but anyway. Also, I'm gonna skip this intro because all he does is talk about how Harry Potter is bad, which isn't what I'm gonna talk about today, and honestly, it's just kind of a really poorly done joke. But yeah, let's fast forward a little bit.
But it's inevitable, it's here, and we've got to talk about it. The fucking Wizard game. Warning, of course, for what you're about to see. There's going to be a lot of transphobic rhetoric that I have to show you in order to talk about some of this shit.
Oh no, he has to read mean words in this video. Yeah, viewer discretion advised, everybody. You know, he has to read mean things people said in this video. Like, come on, man, really? And, well, later in the video, we're gonna get to know that it's not even that bad what he's reading.
So, let's talk about J.K. Rowling, let's talk about Hogwarts Legacy, and let's talk about how allyship really works. J.K. Rowling is a transphobe. This is a fact. It's a fact I've never seen disputed in good faith, only challenged by fellow transphobes who have a pre-baked line since these people all read from the same script.
Oh boy, we're gonna get into transphobia, are we? And really, I would love to see what J.K. Rowling said that's actually transphobic. And if you defend her, you're transphobic, apparently. So yeah, this should be interesting.
What did she say exactly that's transphobic? Rowling couches her hatred in plausible deniability, but her daily obsessive takes on us, her constant comparisons of—
Okay, I have to interrupt the video real quick. So I'm just reading this tweet, and it doesn't really seem that bad to me. Like, what about this is just so terrible they have to boycott a game over it?
Trans women to men, her verbatim repetition of gender-critical talking points.
Again, this tweet isn't that bad. She's not saying she hates trans people or wishes they didn't exist. She's just criticizing some aspects of their ideology and constantly using hormones to fix all their problems. Of course, not all trans people do this, but, you know, there's some that do that, and it's not very healthy.
Makes her feelings clear. She follows, is best friends with, and outright claims to be one of the many prominent TERFs, trans-exclusive radical feminists these days rebranded to gender criticals.
So you're mad that she's a feminist that doesn't include trans women in it? Okay, but why is that such a big deal? I mean, I don't know. Can someone enlighten me on this?
Her slide into open fascism as a result has been horrifying.
What? Fascism? What about this is fascist? Do you know what that word means, dude? I mean, come on, really? You're calling someone you don't like a fascist just because, you know, they don't support your life choices? Are you freaking kidding me, dude?
She is a fan of Matt Walsh, a fascist so into fascism that he self-describes as one, and has made a career from accusing LGBTQ+ people of the very pedophilia he himself seems to be a fan of.
So just because Matt Walsh is a conservative, he's a fascist, and I guess he's a pedophile too. I don't even like Matt Walsh, but really, this seems very outlandish. Why are you making these just ridiculous claims? Matt Walsh is not a fascist, he's just a conservative. Maybe a little extreme in his conservative views, but, you know, that doesn't make him a fascist. Like, he's not, like, wishing that all LGBTQ people were removed from the earth. I mean, come on, man. And really, accusing him of being a pedophile, that's just great. Like, you're really convincing me right here. This doesn't seem bitter or hostile at all towards people who disagree with you, no.
She's liked tweets from the abjectly abhorrent Libs of TikTok account.
Oh no, she liked a few tweets from the Libs of TikTok account, you know? It's just an account that criticizes liberals on TikTok. The more extreme liberals, mind you. Like, really? That's what you're going for? That's your big gotcha moment? This is pretty pathetic. Like, come on. Are you really this soft, dude? Is everyone who disagrees with you just a horrible person in your eyes?
A notorious right-wing platform that outs queer people and is used to organise attacks against drag shows as well as threats against hospitals.
Okay, those screenshots you're showing are just saying they were blamed for it. It doesn't say they were responsible for it. So, and I'm not going to believe you for 1 second because you do not seem right in the head. But also, why is it a bad thing to stop drag shows for children? That seems very wrong to me. Why would you want to encourage that?
She retweets unscientific drivel by queerphobes like Baroness Nicholson. She stands with Maya Forstater, who, after losing her job at a progressive organisation over demeaning anti-trans comments, has dedicated her life to combating trans rights.
Okay, what do you mean by anti-trans rights? Because I don't believe you for a second that, like, she wants trans people dead or something, because I don't know, you just don't seem very trustworthy to me. Plus, losing your job over a political opinion is ridiculous. No one should be subjected to that.
She once sent accidental transphobic profanity to a 9-year-old girl after pasting a comment from an anti-trans website she was reading and copying at the time. She called criticism of this censorship and authoritarianism, seeming to defend her right to rope kids into her obsession.
You keep saying she's obsessed with trans people, or taking away their rights or whatever, but I don't know, it just seems like she's voicing her opinion, not really an obsession.
And she is obsessive. Scroll through her Twitter and you'll find that she thinks about trans people all day, every day. She herself has fought against Scotland's gender recognition reforms, scaremongering and spreading outright lies about a law that would simply make being trans a tiny bit easier. She still has the nerve to act offended at accusations of phobia, while literally campaigning against our basic rights and legal dignity.
Do you know what basic rights are? It seems like you're blowing this way out of proportion. Like, she's just kind of concerned that, you know, that men will just identify as trans women and take advantage of that. That's all I'm getting from these tweets. I don't know how these are all gotcha moments.
At first, she tried to keep up the mask of someone who supports trans people but just has concerns and wanted to protect women's spaces.
Again, I don't see anything wrong with this tweet. It's a pretty legitimate argument, and she says she doesn't hate trans people, and it just seems like you refuse to believe her and just want to paint her as a villain. Like, what about this is so offensive? I don't understand. Like, this makes no sense to me.
A long-time gender-critical dog whistle.
Oh yeah, it's just a dog whistle, guys. Anything she says positive about trans people or how she doesn't hate them, it's just a dog whistle. It's just virtual signaling. It's not that she actually feels that way. I mean, yeah, Jim definitely is more trustworthy than her. So let's just believe Jim Sterling, because, you know, he hasn't made a lot of outlandish claims in the past.
She claimed her liking of transphobic tweets was just her fingers slipping, honest, and now she's an ardent supporter of Helen Joyce.
While we're trying to get through to the decision makers, we have to try to limit the harm. And that means reducing or keeping down the number of people who transition. Every one of those people is basically, you know, a huge problem to a sane world.
Okay, once again, you're blowing this out of proportion. All she's saying is that she doesn't want everybody to become trans because, you know, let's face it, like, ever since they started being represented in media and it's become more accepting in society, or at least Western society, become trans, everyone wants to do it now. Not everyone, but a lot of people want to do it now that wouldn't have originally done it.
Like, if you've got people, that, whether they're transitioned, whether they're happily transitioned, whether they're unhappily transitioned, whether they're detransitioned, if you've got people who've dissociated from their sex in some way, Every one of those people is someone who needs special accommodation. Every one of them is a difficulty.
Oh dear.
That's someone J.K. Rowling agrees with, platforms, is a friend of. Indeed, the people Rowling champions are fucking monsters.
They're monsters because you disagree with them. That's it. They haven't done anything against trans people in the grand scheme of things. They haven't hunted them. They haven't killed any of them. They haven't hurt any of them. They just disagree with some of their ideologies and the whole idea of being trans. Which, you know, for some people, it's pretty hard to understand that, you know, and we should be more courteous to them and try to either help them understand, or we could, you know, or maybe they're not talking about all trans people. Maybe they're just talking about people who are unhappy with their transition, or people who think they're trans but they're really not. People who are only doing being trans because they think it's a trend, you know, things like that. I don't know. I think you should give people more benefit of the doubt, but that's just me. But calling them monsters is completely unnecessary. That is just ridiculous. How are we supposed to take you seriously if you actually find someone who's abhorrent? How are we supposed to believe you if, say, someone's horrible and they actually are, but keep calling everyone who disagrees with you a horrible person? So how are we supposed to take any of this seriously?
Here's GC figurehead Posey Parker telling cis men to patrol women's bathrooms on the hunt for trans women.
Talking about you dads who maybe carry, I think that's what you say. I'm so down with the American lingo. Maybe you carry, maybe you don't. Maybe you consider yourself a protector of women. Maybe you're that sort of man. Maybe you have a daughter or a mother or a wife. Maybe you have a sister. Maybe you just have some friends. Maybe you just think women are human and you don't need any absolute connection with them to feel compelled to protect us. I think you should start using women's toilets, men.
Okay, I will agree, that's kind of a weird take. Like, if you want men to protect women, why not just, in the bathrooms and stuff, why not just give women the guns to protect themselves? That's a weird take. I'll agree with them on that one. But then again, I don't know the full context, and Jim here didn't provide that full context, probably to manipulate his audience, so I'm not 100% sure on that one.
So much for keeping women's spaces for women. Of course, Rowling has tried to be smart. She doesn't record herself outright repeating the violent sentiment.
Violent? How is it violent? She doesn't want to kill trans people. Are you serious, Jim? Come on. This is ridiculous. I can't take any of this seriously because you're just accusing her of all these things that aren't even true. I'm gonna be pausing like every few seconds because every single thing you say is just completely ridiculous.
No, she contents herself with laughing at us.
That's how I saw him.
I will never tell this to anyone, so hopefully not with a transgender person.
This has been such a pleasure.
Her slimy, cowardly behaviour goes back years. What's shown in this video so far is just from stuff I started collecting in the past year because I knew this subject was inevitable. While she's been careful enough not to use plainly direct hate speech, I don't think her deniability is close to plausible anymore.
Again, I don't see anything wrong with this tweet. She's just saying that she's concerned that, you know, some trans people might transition, lose their fertility, and regret it later in life, which may not even apply to you or all trans people. Have you ever thought of that? Not everything's about you, Jim. She doesn't hate LGBTQ people. She just has a few criticisms of their ideology, which no ideology should be safe from criticism. Come on.
Look at the lies she tells, the fascists she supports. Look at how much she talks about us. This is not what someone who doesn't loathe us does. This is the activity of someone with a genuine, deep-seated problem.
So just because she's friends with people you say are fascist, we don't even know if they're actually fascists, which I highly doubt they are, because you just seem to like throwing that word around. But just because she's friends with people who have an ideology you disagree with, that makes her a terrible person. She hates trans people, even though she says she doesn't, but you're not going to believe that. You're just going to believe she's a transphobe and she hates all trans people just because you want to believe it. But come on, let's face it, that's the real reason here.
You don't have to believe me. You can believe the Harry Potter cast members who've condemned her.
Yeah, let's believe the people in the Hollywood bubble, because, you know, they've never been wrong before. They've never been virtue signaling or just trying to cover their own butts by agreeing with a general consensus, no matter how stupid it is.
You can believe the historians who've catalogued a clear timeline of her descent into frothing bigotry.
Oh wow, she's a fascist and a bigot. You know, we're just getting all the buzzwords in this video, aren't we? Because honestly, these words have lost all meaning. People just throw them around to people they disagree with. Like, she calls J.K. Rowling a bigot just because she has a few criticisms of the trans ideology. Which, you know, that's perfectly fine. You can criticize things. You can criticize ideologies. That's how society and humanity grows. But if you don't like that criticism, then why are you even on the internet? People are gonna not accept you. There's people all over the world that no matter what you do, they won't accept you for who you are. And that's just life, man. And you're like way older than me, Jim Sterling. How do you not know this?
Or, if you'd rather, believe the Republican politicians who are actually citing her words in their anti-LGBTQ+ legislative efforts. Believe the virulently right-wing male supremacy group Honey Badgers who call JKR their queen.
Oh yeah, those darn right-wingers, am I right? I mean, it's not like both sides of the political spectrum are completely crazy and you just figure things out for yourself. No, let's just label everything so that way we can condemn people and just make up false arguments and also just not even have to come up to our own conclusions. Just treat politics like a religion. Just don't even think about it. Just believe what the left says no matter what, or believe what the right says no matter what, because everyone who disagrees with you is bad, you know? Just don't even use critical thinking.
Believe the photos of her at GC meetings. Believe the trans exclusionary women's shelter she set up to replace the trans inclusive women's shelter that her movement bullied and harassed out of operation. Or maybe just believe J.K. Rowling when she says it is dangerous to assert that any category of people deserves a blanket presumption of innocence.
I mean, that's true though. Nobody should assume you're innocent just because you're trans. Or any characteristic of you. Nobody should believe you're innocent just by default for any reason. I don't really understand what your argument here is.
She meant trans people, of course.
Okay, now you're just twisting your words around. You don't even know if that's true. You're just trying to make that claim to fit your own agenda.
But if she's right, then hell, she gets no presumption either. She is a TERF, loud and proud, Merry Turfmas, as she would say, and has said.
Oh dear.
I've been out as a trans femme now for over 2 years. With my coming out, much about the world around me has changed, be it through my new perspective or the difference in treatment I receive. There's a lot of good. I'm complimented by sweet old ladies who like my boots, I'm hit on by lesbians in Leeds, people in general say nice things about me and I feel more comfortable saying them back.
I highly doubt that. How can anyone stand Jim Sterling? At least, if they don't know who he is off of YouTube, maybe I'll get it. But if you watch his videos, then I don't understand how anyone can like him or like his content. He is just such a bitter, whiny person. And anyone who disagrees with him is just a horrible person in his eyes, which I've already said a million times, but I really gotta keep repeating that, because, like, that's basically what you say to sum up his whole internet personality, or maybe just his regular personality. I don't think this is an internet personality. This is just him. He's just actually like this in real life, I think.
Mostly, I'm more confident. I like who I am and how I look, things that weren't true before. But while good things happened, and to be honest, 90% of people really don't care if I'm trans or not, there are negatives. It's no secret what it did to my career. The way in which I'm criticised online changed. Suddenly I was diagnosed by commenters as mentally ill, my age comes up a lot now, and my writing is tone policed, accused of being rude and screeching where it wasn't before.
No, your content has always been rude and screeching, and just annoying for the most part. All you do is whine about every single thing, and then you started interjecting unnecessary politics into every single video, just talking about video games, and just ranting about capitalism. That's why people are unsubbing to you, not because you're trans, it's just because you're insufferable to watch anymore.
But most of all, the world has become scarier. Scarier because of the right-wingers calling us all groomers and engaging in violence against us. Scarier because of the GOP and Tories scapegoating us and legislating our rights away with increased ferocity. Scarier because of media outlets like the BBC engaging in transphobia as a matter of policy.
Oh yeah, it's so much scarier to be trans right now, even though being trans, there's never been a better time in human history to be trans than right now. But oh no, it's those dang conservatives and right-wingers, you know, they hate us, they want to commit genocide on us, which isn't true at all. Like, come on, Jim, this is pathetic. I am losing brain cells watching this. Like, this is painful to watch.
Scarier because of the people JKR has emboldened with her support, the gender criticals who preach eugenics and partake in phrenology to call for our eradication. Scarier because culturally and legally and increasingly physically, we've been staring down the barrel of genocide for a long, long time.
Maybe if you live in like Saudi Arabia or Iran or something, but you're just really trying to make yourself a victim in this case. I mean, you're really saying they're going to commit genocide against trans people because they hate them, even though America and many other modern first world countries are fighting for trans rights, and or they just don't care about trans people. They just let them exist and don't really do anything about it. I mean, this is just the most woe is me video I've ever seen. Like, I get trans people, some trans people, or maybe a lot of them, like, deal with people harassing them and things like that, especially on the internet, but the thing is, it's mostly on the internet from what I've seen, so I just don't understand this victim complex. Like, if this is in a third world country or Iran or Saudi Arabia where it is illegal to be trans and you'll be murdered on the street for being that, then I would understand, but this is just whining.
If you're not trans, if you're not so aware of how there's a new attack on us and our rights multiple times a day, every day, you won't quite know how bad it is. It's horrific. It's exhausting. We're less than 2% of the population, but we're called an epidemic. We're demonized in the press with extremely disproportionate coverage, and wealthy, powerful people like JKR can't stop thinking about us.
I don't know, I'm sure J.K. Rowling has a lot better things to do with her millions, or actually, sorry, was it billions or millions? I don't know. The point is, she has a ton of money, and she probably has a lot better things to do with her life than think about you, of all people, or any trans people. Like, stop thinking you're so important that people are constantly thinking about you. Get over yourself, come on.
Look, some people might be delighted to hear this from me, but I'm going to admit it plainly. I'm afraid. I'm really, really afraid.
Sounds like a you problem. I bet there's tons of trans people that don't think this way. Like, you're not that much of a victim that you need to live in constant fear. I mean, come on, nobody cares about you that much. Nobody even cares that you're trans that much. Maybe a few people on the internet do, but that's the problem. You're looking at Twitter too much and assuming that's the entire world. Stop. You are terminally online.
And every day, for months, I've seen a video game that directly benefits one of the largest sources of that fear promoted on the PlayStation Store and Xbox Live, hyped up by the gaming press and championed by a community with a long-running vein of transphobia running through it that goes back to the hateful protests against a bit part trans NPC in Dragon Age Inquisition.
Oh wow, now you're attacking gamers, aka your own audience, by the way. Yeah, that's great. That's great for a YouTube channel. I still don't understand why you're losing subs, man. I just don't see it.
Every day, a constant reminder that we as trans people have so few friends, so few allies. Every day, a reminder that the game industry and community are contemptuous. You know, as much as y'all gamers TM have tried, you've not owned me by posting the glowing review scores for Hogwarts Legacy or boasting about its sales success. That just proves what I knew.
I don't know, the fact that this video exists proves that you're pretty upset about this.
That people don't give a fuck. That's not new information. It's not a surprise. It's half of the course. That's all. Those of you actively trying to harass me over it aren't the actual offensive ones. No, the offense comes purely from the self-described allies who want to have it both ways, who want to play their wizard game and get really upset when criticised over it. Or the media outlets who justify their uncritical reviews by having the fucking nerve to compare our protests against them to fucking Gamergate. Transphobes, you need to up your game, because none of you will ever be as insulting as a self-styled cis ally who wants trans people's permission to not take a stand.
Okay, you keep trying to portray that all trans people are, like, just have these horrible lives and that we need people to be with them, but I don't think that's true for all of them. Like, there's a lot of trans people that are probably pretty happy with their lives and how society views them. Well, not all of society, obviously, but, you know, society isn't nearly as hateful toward trans people as they were, like, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Like, this is just really just wanting to be a victim and wanting people will feel sorry for you.
Oh, and I love how the same Gamers TM who spent nearly 10 years calling game reviewers corrupt suddenly started trusting and touting them when a game they rallied around got 8s and 9s. Some of them even tried to twist Gamergate's ethics in game journalism pretext to defend outlets like IGN from criticism.
Can you name examples? Because I've never seen a single person in my life that actually takes Gamergate, GameSpot, IGN, any of these game journalists seriously. It just seems like you're trying to make an argument that they only agree with them because they like the Hogwarts Legacy game, just because they want to be transphobes, which is completely ridiculous to assume that.
IGN! Suddenly, the Ethics Brigade are standing for IGN, the Too Much Water website, the site whose credibility they've done nothing but meme. Way to prove that you've only ever wanted to be agreed with.
Seriously, give me examples on this. You're literally just making these claims and not proving it. Like, I still have yet to find anyone who takes IGN seriously. Why are you saying suddenly people like them? This makes no sense. Give an example. Show some tweets. Yeah, I know Twitter is kind of low-hanging fruit to find stupid takes, but at least show that. By the way, I'm going to fast forward through some more of this because he kind of goes on a tangent about game reviewers and game journalism that has nothing to do with what we're talking about until like 3 or 4 minutes in, so yeah, let's fast forward a little bit.
Say, litter a Hogwarts Legacy review with so many negative statements, it sounds like shit, and then give it a 9 out of 10 regardless. From a general fear of controversy to wanting to avoid gamer boy harassment and, of course, maintaining a good enough relationship with publishers to keep having access, they've plenty of reason to go soft.
So, they only gave the game a positive rating because they were afraid of being harassed and they want more games to be given to them for free in the future. Which, the second part I might agree with, but being harassed, no. I don't think anyone cares about IGN enough to harass them. But okay, whatever.
On big name games. I left The Escapist in 2014 because parent company Defy Media refused to publish my review of Assassin's Creed Unity and jeopardised their relationship with Ubisoft. I'm famously blacklisted by Konami for being such a harsh critic. The PR company 47 told me EA wouldn't send me review copies because I'm a wild card. The only access I get in gaming comes from sources acting alone that need anonymity because they're not allowed to talk to me. My standing in the industry, that is to say, no standing, is the result of doing everything my former peers are incentivized not to do. I burned every bridge I had for not wanting to play with deeply corrupt organizations, and I'm proud of it.
Okay, good for you, I guess. What does this have to do with the topic at hand? Like, you're just talking about yourself at this point, and nobody cares about you that much to hear your life story. I'm sorry. Like, you're not that interesting, Jim. That's why you keep losing subscribers. Another reason why you keep losing subscribers anyway.
I also acknowledge that I can afford to not play in that sludgy water. Most reviewers can't. I scarcely blame them for the system they're stuck in. I've been there, I know how it is, and I don't think reviewers are unethical so much as forced to compromise with unethical companies while in the thrall to the all-important SEO. They're not paid off, but as we've seen with Hogwarts Legacy and with how quickly they wanted to move on from mentioning Ubisoft and Activision's abuse in their game coverage, not many of them have any damn principles.
I mean, they're just reviewing video games at the end of the day. They don't really have to talk about what goes on behind the games or the developers. Like, yeah, Ubisoft, Activision, they've done some pretty terrible things, but, you know, but when you review their game, you don't have to mention the controversies because you just want to talk about the game. Like, that's what people want to see in a game review. If they wanted to see all the drama behind the scenes, they would go read a news article.
Multiple times in the past few years, press outlets had opportunities to make a stand. They did not. So yeah, to the born-again Potter fans who spammed me with screenshots of IGN's big ol' 9, I'm not sure what y'all proved other than your own hypocritical opportunism. You'll be back to calling game reviewers SJW soon enough, won't you? I know I'm not changing any minds here. The bigots and Potter fans and people who just want to enjoy a video game made their decision.
Okay, now you're just calling them bigots, or because they mindlessly consume Harry Potter media. Like, come on, they just want to play a video game. You're calling them bigots. You're saying they have no principles. This is just not the way to change people's minds. Just, I know you already said you know you're not changing people's minds, but at least try. At least make an argument instead of just painting anyone you dislike or disagree with as a bigot or fascist. This is really pathetic. This is the worst video I've ever seen. I know I said that earlier, but this has to be the worst video I've ever seen on YouTube.
The allies who want to separate art from artists or hate JKR but just always wanted to Skyrim or Hogwarts made their decision. And regardless of intent, all of you look exactly the same to J.K. Rowling. See, while people have tried to justify Hogwarts' legacy by saying JKR had no direct involvement, that doesn't change the fact she makes direct money from sales.
Yeah, and she earns money from the book sales, Universal Studios, the movies, every Blu-ray copy sold. But no one's talking about that, they just want to talk about the video game. So why don't you talk about that stuff too? This seems very selective. This is selective outrage at its finest, really.
More importantly, it doesn't change the truly insidious aspect of Harry Potter's continued success. JKR takes it as explicit endorsement of her views. She thinks the success of Harry Potter means people agree with her, and she's said so before. There is no difference in hers or any other TERF's mind between the people who bought Hogwarts because they wanted a fun wizard game and the people spite buying it to demonstrate the powerlessness trans people already feel.
Nobody's buying this to spite trans people and make them feel powerless, because it's just a video game. The only people they're trying to spite is people like you or people on Twitter. That's it. Because you and people on Twitter, which, let's be honest, there's no difference, you're both insane, are the most annoying people on the internet and just make it a worse place for everyone because you constantly get offended by everything and whine about everything. Just let people enjoy a video game.
Intent doesn't matter. You're all just supporters to her. You are all permission. This is why you aren't an ally if you buy Hogwarts Legacy.
Oh wow, gatekeeping too. I mean, I'm not surprised, but, you know, people can still have morals and principles and support LGBTQ people and still play a game, no matter what goes on behind the scenes. I mean, heck, I think the stuff that happened behind Activision with all the sexual assault cases is terrible, but, you know, I bought Call of Duty because I wanted to play Call of Duty, and I enjoy it. But that doesn't mean I agree with what they've done. I mean, come on.
No, buying the game doesn't make you a transphobe, and I'm tired of hearing the self-martyring whinging about that. I'm not saying you're transphobic for buying Hogwarts Legacy. I'm saying you're not an ally. You handed that card in because you couldn't do the barest minimum. You couldn't make the simplest stand. It's not that hard to not buy a AAA video game. You chose a product over people.
No, they just chose a product to play it. They didn't choose it over people. Because I guarantee you, a lot of people don't even know about this controversy. They just wanted to play a Hogwarts video game. You're just turning it into something it's not. You're making it this big moral dilemma when it's just a video game. Just because they bought it doesn't mean they chose it over people. They can still play it and support trans rights. This is ridiculous. And tell me, do you have an iPhone or a computer or a car, anything made in China? You know, let me tell you, like, products made in China, it's not pretty to see how they're made, but you buy them anyways, right?
And in doing so, you helped J.K. Rowling say things like this when asked how it feels to have alienated so many queer fans.
I read my most recent royalty checks and find the pain goes away pretty quickly.
Okay, that's clearly a joke. You're just trying to make her seem evil, but that's very obviously a joke.
That's what you do. You empower a fascist-supporting transphobe.
Okay, I still don't understand how J.K. Rowling's a fascist. You have not convinced me at all. You're doing a very terrible job of it. And I have a feeling you're not going to convince me by the end of this video, because you seem to like throwing that word around like it means nothing.
Some of you celebrate that you've done it. Some of you wring your hands and excuse it. The result's the same. So enjoy! Not a single one of you are under any obligation to refuse this game. I'm not demanding it of you, and I'm not going to say you're an inherently bad person for it. But I do not trust you. I can't count on you. Can't think you have our backs. I can't feel safe with you. And sorry, but you don't get to feel hurt by that.
Oh yeah, I don't think you're a bad person. I just don't want anything to do with you, and I want you to get out of my life because you have no morals and because I don't feel safe with you just because you bought a video game. Yeah, perfectly reasonable take right there.
You get to enjoy your media product. I get to remember every digital storefront that took a Hogwarts sponsorship, every games journalist that promoted it, every platform and company that embraced it, and I get to remember that when Pride Month rolls around and the performative allyship begins. Your rainbow logos won't count for shit.
They never did. They're just pandering to you and other queer people because they know that if they pretend that they're an ally, or even if they are and just say that they are over and over again, that they'll just give you more money. Did you really think they cared for you just by having a rainbow logo before this? That's pretty sad. Everyone knows that's just pandering.
It hardly needs to be said, but any of you who claimed you bought it to support the developers can especially get in the bin. Oh, they worked hard and should be supported. That's probably the dumbest attempt to lionize consumerism I've ever seen. I've seen this excuse so much, and I'm like, how dare you? How dare you lie to me so fucking brazenly? You don't buy games just to support developers, you buy them because you want to play them. Tell me, do you buy literally every single game that's ever made and released? If you're motivated purely by dev support, that's what you do, right? Every game is developed by game developers, so why aren't you buying every game? Every single one? Get the fuck out of here with that blatant bullshit.
Again, can you provide examples of this? Because I haven't seen anything like this. And why should anyone have to buy a game to support developers? Just buy games because you want to have fun. That's it. Like, yeah, okay, if you say you buy games to support developers, that's kind of cringe because we all know the real reasons why you buy it. But really, like, can you provide examples of this? And if you do have examples, like, I highly doubt it's a widespread thing.
Of course it's bollocks from a results standpoint too. The devs got paid already. They get paid for their work up front. Unlike JKR, they don't get royalty checks. They're not the ones supported by your purchase. She is. Warner Brothers is. Those are the beneficiaries. As we've discussed on this show before, game studios mostly live or die regardless of the success of one game, and thanks to the way public companies work, they're sometimes hurt by it, as layoffs often follow an influx of revenue to maintain the illusion of financial growth. Corporations don't operate based on customer support. If they did, we'd get more single-player games and fewer ones based around financially exploiting a minority of whale players. You're not supporting the devs that tossed in a token trans character called Sir Orion, explicitly to try and steer us all away from the subject of J.K. Rowling. Support wasn't even your intent. That's a retroactive justification for something you were always going to do. And honestly, fuck any of you who've come at me in the past few months with that excuse or any other excuse that attempts to paint your purchase of a video game in a noble light. You're not noble. You're not a fucking hero.
Yeah, you're not noble and you're not a hero, just like Jim Sterling, because, you know, making a YouTube video complaining about all this isn't going to make people listen to you. It's not going to make these companies listen. But you sure seem to think like you're important, Jim. Like, you've been doing this for how long now, and nothing's changed, yet you keep making video after video complaining about these things, yet you still think you're some great intellectual that's going to make a difference. Come on now.
Play the game if you must, but don't you dare tell me you did it for any reason other than self-service. Don't you ever look to me for validation, expect me to assuage your guilt, toss hypothetical scenarios at me that you think allow you to have it both ways. Just play your fucking wizard game.
Why would anyone look for your validation? Like, do you really think you're that important? Get over yourself. Come on. Like, why would anyone seek your validation? No one needs your validation to play a video game or do anything. You're not that important. Stop thinking that.
How you feel about that is not my problem. You clearly decided how we feel isn't yours. Cis feelings aren't our responsibility.
And trans feelings aren't our responsibility. So, what's even your point? Someone's feelings isn't anyone's responsibility. Just do what you want. Like, it's a video game. This isn't a war or a life or death situation. It is a video game.
It's so telling that the only real coverage of alleged harassment in games media this week has been about cis streamers getting upset at some mild pushback. It's a really old play. Whenever trans people advocate for themselves, we're painted as unreasonable bullies. Unsurprisingly, I've been asked to answer for the alleged harassment because minorities are always expected to take responsibility for each other. You know what? I'll answer for it when I can go a day online without someone saying something truly vile about me, when I can stream without harassment myself, when I can post a selfie without being called a man or getting some other derogatory comment, when what trans people go through gets as much attention in the press, and when I feel people give as much of a shit about all of us as one cis person. If all that happens, I'll prostrate myself before you on behalf of all transes everywhere. Until then, this'll do.
Okay, no one has a right to go on the internet and not be harassed. That's just the nature of the internet, which, yeah, it sucks, but there's nothing you can do about it. Doesn't matter if you're trans or whatever else you want to label yourself. People are just going to harass you no matter what. Like, that's not exclusive to trans people. And are you seriously advocating for people harassing streamers just because they played the Hogwarts game? Like, I don't know. Seems a little hostile if you ask me.
Checked out the big one that they're hailing as like the innocent streamer who got harassed off of the live stream. And what I have learned is that y'all genuinely think that accountability and basic criticism is the same thing as harassment and discrimination. Here we have somebody saying OMG transphobia because obviously they think that it's a big joke. And then, well, that's kind of disappointing. Then we have yikes. Then we have, yeah, I don't care how much you donate to Trevor Project, I'm done, unfollowed so fast. Sorry, can't support this, goodbye, very disappointing. You can really feel the discrimination, and there are tons of video games, guys. And here we have the comments they just let slide on through, like Rowling is a good person. Didn't have a problem with that one. And then she had to step away, and then she came back, and then they continued to stream for another 6 hours. And here's the thing, it wasn't even a comment that made her cry from what I could see. It was her and her boyfriend fighting this imaginary angry trans person and her getting more and more overwhelmed at her defending herself against somebody who wasn't there.
Well, I mean, they were harassing her on her Twitch stream just for playing a video game, and you're advocating for that? But no, it's just criticism when trans people do it. But if you criticize a trans person, then it's harassment. That's all I'm getting out of this, really. I mean, seems like you can't criticize trans people, but they can criticize you to no end. But if you do it the other way around, it's harassment. But if you get harassed, then it's not real. It's just criticism, guys.
Boycotts don't work. I said that about, I don't know, 10 years ago, and boy, people love flinging that one at me lately. I think there's still some truth to that, though looking back, it really is just what people are using it for. Permission to not take a stand. Kinda like how people have appropriated no ethical consumption under capitalism. Regardless, I know that in this case a boycott would never have worked. It's Harry Potter, and people don't care enough about trans people to pay JKR's crusade much attention.
It's not that they don't care about trans people, it's just that what J.K. Rowling said wasn't even that transphobic or offensive. You guys are just blowing it out of proportion. That's kind of the main reason, really.
A boycott is not what I wanted, nor expected. What most of us wanted was to simply point out why supporting a Hogwarts legacy is harmful, to at least get good people to think about the implications, to be heard on this, and to find out who our allies really were. We certainly found out about that last one. We don't have many, and we're sadly not shocked.
Yep, just because you bought a video game means you're not an ally. Seriously, who are you to tell people who is and isn't an ally? You don't get to decide that. I mean, like, I'm not against trans rights or whatever, but, and I didn't even buy Hogwarts Legacy, but I don't have a problem with people who do, because they just want to play the game. They don't care about anything else that's going on. Like, you're just reading way too much into this.
For me, it's not about stopping you buying Hogwarts, but to get you to accept the accountability of it. I know many of you want to consume guilt-free, but I'm not the girl who's going to condone that. It's really quite simple. If you buy it, you're not a trans ally. Yes, it's that stark an either-or choice, and this is coming from someone who rejects the binary whenever possible. You might not be against us, but you're either with us, or you aren't.
Well, that was a contradictory statement. Plus, why does everything have to be so black and white? Humans are not that simplistic of creatures. There is a spectrum for almost everything when it comes to ideologies. Just stop thinking that so simply. It's not that hard.
Have fun Skyrimming a Hogwarts. And Merry Turfmas. Nagini, help! They've got a fucking Glock! Anyway, stochastic terrorism. Fee suggested I just briefly let you know what stochastic terrorism is. It's basically what we're seeing a lot of against not just trans people but LGBTQ plus people on the wider spectrum. That knobhead Tucker Carlson does it all the time. It's causing indirect harm through rhetoric, through the normalization of bigotry and hateful ideas, through incitement, This is what Carlson, a lot of these right-wingers that I've mentioned on this episode, including Rowling, do. They incite hatred of a minority, of a marginalised group, in the hopes that some harm comes to them. It's no surprise that violence against trans people is on the rise.
Once again, name examples, provide proof for your claims. Also, these people are not bigots. They don't hate LGBTQ people. You're just trying to paint them as that so you have an excuse to just disregard their arguments. Like, just look at what they say. They do not hate them. They stated many times that they do not hate them. They just have some criticisms. But, you know, we all know we can't have criticisms towards them, because then you're just a bigot, right?
And that it's rising in conjunction with people like Carlson going on TV and engaging in groomer libel, telling everyone that we're out to get their children. Anyway, that's stochastic terrorism, a very insidious method of causing harm because, as we've seen Rowling do now for years, it allows you to plausibly deny your involvement. Well, had nothing to do with me. Of course, with JKR, there's a lot more we could talk about. We could talk about the many criticisms people have had of the anti-Semitic portrayal of goblins.
Oh my gosh. Are you serious? This is just getting to extra credits levels of stupid. Are you serious that anti-Semitic portrayals of goblins? Are you freaking serious? I don't even need to explain why that's stupid, and if I do, then you're already too far gone.
In her work, we could talk about how she constantly equates her idea of physical attractiveness to goodness, certainly when it comes to using fatness as a visual indicator of evil.
What? I mean, I've never gotten into Harry Potter, never read the books or seen the movies, but I'm pretty sure Dumbledore was a good guy and he's fat, and Voldemort is pretty skinny, so I'm not really sure what you're talking about there.
For this episode, I stuck with what I personally feel is my field of experience, what I feel I can speak to most powerfully, but J.K. Rowling is a shit. That's the bottom line. She's a shit. So, that is the sad look at Hogwarts Legacy. I have been putting this one off. I've not wanted to do it, although, if I'm honest, I'm actually quite proud of the script we put together. I'm quite proud of the video that's been put together.
There is literally nothing to be proud of in this video. You're overreacting, making terrible arguments, have terrible editing. Like, this is some really lazy editing. I mean, I know my editing's pretty lazy, but at least I don't go around claiming that I have high production value. And I haven't been on this site for over a decade like Jim has. So, yeah, I wouldn't really be too proud of this video if I were you.
I am pleased that I got that off my ample chest. Which not J.K. Rowling, or Mayo Forstater, or Julie Pintle are going to take away from me. It's my tits. I earned them. You can't have them. Thank God for me.
Oh, it's finally over. That was just super painful to get through. The amount of ego, victim complex, terrible arguments, straw man arguments, all of it. It was just, this has to be the worst video I've ever responded to. Just, oh man, this was painful to get through. I feel like I'm dumber as a person after watching this. Like, jeez. But anyway, thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Sub to the channel if you'd like. I'm also streaming on Twitch and at twitch.tv/personmanguy. But also, I started a live archive channel on here at personmanguy live archive. So go check that out if you want to see previous streams. There's not much on there right now. There's only one video of my live response to Synthetic Man's God of War Ragnarok review. But yeah, that's about it for now. Hopefully I can make more videos soon. But yeah, see ya.